Hi, this is Scott, and today we are going to talk about America's future in light of Ukraine's crisis. All right, today what I want to talk about is a very interesting the idea that Vladimir Putin is not destroying one country, Ukraine. He is destroying two countries, Ukraine and Russia. Very fascinating topic. All right, so let me cite my sources. So actually, right now I'm listening to BBC. I'm listening to CNN. I'd say maybe 10-15% of my content is from them. Breaking Points, and the Sky News from Australia. Okay. So one of the broadcasters from there said this fascinating thing, right? And it was, Putin isn't ruining one country, he's ruining two countries, right? And their point was that what Putin is doing is actually really going to bring tremendous ruin to Russia, right? It's an incredibly interesting point. I hadn't really thought about it that way. Now, I am adjusting it because I don't agree. I don't think he's ruining two countries. I think he's ruining, like, literally, honestly, I think there might be two countries on the planet that he doesn't ruin. There is going to be massive, massive costs. The fact that gas is going through the roof everywhere, every country in the world is getting stuff shipped, right? So gas means everything goes up, and this means that every country in the world, the poor are going to suffer tremendously over the next couple of years, and that is ruinous to virtually every country there is, right? Now, but let's take it to the point that they were saying. I do think he's literally destroying two countries. So, of course, he's destroying Ukraine. That's quite obvious. I don't need to tell you that. You're seeing it on camera every single day. He's literally, bombing, the living daylights out of Ukraine daily, right? Like, with what seems to be no discrimination whatsoever between military and civilian targets, right? So he's quite literally destroying Ukraine. But he is very much, making a very good effort to destroy, unintentional effort to destroy Russia. Because when this thing is done, I just think, very sadly, I think a lot of the villainy that Vladimir Putin has done is going to be credited to the Russian people. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think they're fully responsible for everything that's happening here. Vladimir Putin does not equal the Russian people, right? And I think there is incredible destruction coming to the Russian nation because of the acts of Vladimir Putin, their leader, who they chose as their leader for close to 20 years, right? So, we have to learn incredibly specific lessons, right? And one of those lessons is that if you ever didn't vote, or you didn't put in the time to make sure that your vote was going to the right place, do not allow someone who should not be leading you to lead you, right? Like, make sure you take the action, the civic action of voting them out, right? Like, we have that ability in America, right? And, and so it just tells us so what can you do to help, right? What can you do to help, right? It's a big question. I'm going to say it now. I think in this moment, I'm a huge Andrew Yang fan. I really am. But I think there's almost certainly has to be a Republican. You have to vote Republican in the next election. We just don't have the ability to have a Dem-Dov president. We just don't have that ability in 2024. So I think there's about a 99% chance you're going to need. And so even if you're a Democrat, one of the things you could do is you can switch your registration to Republican now so that you can vote in the Republican primaries. You can then vote for your damn president if you want to. But the reality is every person in America should be watching the Republican candidates like a hawk, right? And personally, I feel like you can't elect Trump again. He was horrible. But we need a strong hawk president, and that is an and hawk Democrat is an oxymoron. We need a hawk, and that means we're going to need a Republican. I do not want to abandon Andrew Yang this early in the mix, right? But there is no time for anything but a Talon-beat hawk in this next election, because we got a lot of building to do on our military at least, and we got to secure this nation like never before if we get through this, right? So that's one thing you can do, is start watching very closely the Republican candidates and figuring out a way to beat Trump, right? And put a Republican president in. And this is if you're a Democrat, right? This is if you're a Democrat. So that's the best thing you could do, right? It's one of the best things you can do right now to help, right? But I really am very convinced that this is correct, that right now, Putin, understanding what Putin is doing, it looks like he's destroying one country. He is very much destroying two countries, right? Because on the other side of this, how does the world feel about vodka and ballet and borscht and all these wonderful things that had goodwill attached to them, right? How do we attach the same goodwill to those things on the other side of that, you know? And I think the Russian people are a good people. They're a good people of the world, and they have valuable things to offer the world, right? They've done great literature, great dance. They're an important people in the world, right? And I'm really worried that the absolute rightful despisement that's going to be attached to Vladimir Putin, some of that is going to get attached to the Russian people, right? If we don't figure out a way to navigate this. So I really think we need to be thinking about the Russian people now and thinking how we can preserve goodwill for them through this. Because they have, that nation, Russia, has presented the world with its greatest villain, bar none, right? The other thing I was thinking of too is Putin is destroying two countries, not just one, not just Ukraine. He's really destroying Russia right now, right? They're gonna feel pain from this for 2 decades minimum, right? Minimum, okay. But there's also this issue of who can win this war, right? If Putin wins, there's no winner, right? Because the Russian people will pay the price for that victory. Unfortunately, I think there's a very good chance of that, right? I think we should figure out now a way to avoid that, but I think there's an incredible there's a credible probability that if Putin wins, if he keeps even 1 inch of the land he took in this invasion, it will be an invitation to every tin pot dictator in the world to roll out their worst villainy, right? And I'm just not sure that the world's going to find a way to disconnect all the despisement they have for Putin away from the Russian people. And that's one thing. That's another thing if you want to help, start thinking now. How do we as a culture separate Vladimir Putin from the Russian people in our thoughts and our goodwills, in our hearts and in our minds? How do we get there? How's a good, fair way to do that? Yeah. So, and then there is one possibility. If Ukraine wins, right, that's a real winner, because that tells the world freedom can defeat tyranny, right? Freedom can defeat villainy. Freedom matters. Freedom can win, right? That's a victory if Ukraine wins, the world wins. If Putin wins, the world loses. Right? That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.